Hello, this is Deborah Brown from Research Triangle High School, and the purpose of this presentation is to give you a little bit of background on what to expect if you've been asked to judge at a forensics tournament. The first thing that we want to say is thank you. Thank you so very much. This debating and public speaking events are amazing opportunities for students, but they really do depend on the adult volunteers to come in and give them the feedback and let these tournaments run. So without your help and without your volunteering your time for these kinds of events, these opportunities would not be available for our students. In this presentation, we're going to do a basic overview of some of the speech and debate categories and a little bit about what a typical schedule might be like at a tournament and what you'd be expected to do as a judge. So the first thing you need to figure out is how you're going to get to the tournament, and this is going to vary from tournament to tournament and from coach to coach. Sometimes you may carpool along with the team, or you may just get yourself to the tournament depending on where the event is. Once you arrive, there'll be a registration process and you'll be given a judge's packet. There'll be an opportunity to have a meeting before the tournament where they'll go over last minute ideas and things for the judges to think about. Then there'll be the postings of the different rounds and the schedule of the events, and you'll have a chance to settle into the judges lounge, and we'll talk about all of these in detail in a few slides. Now, my judges will often ask me, what should I wear to a speech tournament and what should I bring? Most of the coaches that you see will be dressed in kind of business casual. Most coaches are teachers and they're still there that day in their teacher authority, so they probably won't be dressed quite as casually. But there are a number of judges who will come, and they are the adults, and they'll be a little bit more relaxed for the day. And sometimes you'll see college students and former students who come in to judge, and they'll be completely casual. So it really is kind of up to you. You do want to be comfortable. You could be walking around the school and the school campus, and you will be there for the day. So wear what you feel is going to be most appropriate for you. You should expect to have some downtime as a judge. Very often there's space between the rounds, or you may not be judging all 4 rounds. So bring some books, some reading materials, some work to do, but recognize that you won't always have access to the internet. Some schools don't have a way for people to sign on as a guest into their school Wi-Fi. Others do, so it's a little bit varies from site to site. You will be fed. Tournaments often pride themselves on the kinds of spreads that they offer for their judges. So there's almost always some sort of breakfast items, coffee and drinks and snacks throughout the day, and then a lunch that is provided for the coaches. You're always welcome to bring your own food if you have dietary restrictions or you just prefer to bring to know what it is that you're bringing with you for that day. But usually they provide quite a good meal for the judges. It's part of the fun of going to tournaments. Now, what is it that you will be judging? I'm going to have some future presentations that are going to go over these events in much more individual detail, and we'll talk about some of the things to look for the specific events. But as a general overview, speech and debate tournaments tend to break down into 3 categories. The first category are the debates, and those include the Lincoln Douglas style debate, which is a one-person on one-person, the public forum debate, which is a 2-man team debate, and then policy debate, which we don't really see a lot of in this area, but we can talk about again in a future presentation. Many tournaments offer a student congress, which is a lot like it sounds like. These students are separated for the day. They're often a chamber, and they have various pieces of legislature that they will be debating and arguing and presenting throughout the whole day. You will probably not be judging Congress unless you're specifically trained and told that you will be judging Congress for the day. And then we have all the individual events. These are often abbreviated as IE or called the interp events. And there's quite a few, as you can see from this list, and not every one of these events is offered at every category. But they range from dramatic and humorous interpretation, which are really acting categories. The students have a memorized piece that they present to you, and dramatic means that the material is going to be a little more serious in nature, and humorous is that it will be a little more lighthearted in nature. Duo interpretation is a 2-man event where they're acting out a scene, and it is also memorized. And the interesting thing with duo is the students are not actually allowed to have direct eye contact or touch each other directly. And again, future presentations we can break down these categories. There's oral interpretation, where the students read from a script and they try to bring a story or a tale or a piece of prose to life for you. Original oratory, where they've written their own speech and on some current issue or something that's important to them that they're trying to inform or persuade you about. Storytelling, which is a lot like oral interpretation, but is often children's literature or adolescent fiction. Extemporaneous is kind of fun, where they walk into the room and they pull topics out of a hat, and they have about 20 minutes to prepare a speech. And that's usually on either a domestic policy issue or a foreign policy issue. Impromptu is similar to extempt, but it's done right there on the spot. They pick 3 topics out of a hat in front of you. They've got 3 minutes to prepare, and then they give a speech on the spot about that topic. Some tournaments will even offer radio broadcasting, where the students will read a script with their back to you so that you are only judging them based on their voice, or declamation, where they're giving a speech that's already been given and they're kind of re-presenting this material and this information. And don't let that be too intimidating with all of these different listings. Again, we can go over these very specifically, and the ballots that you fill out have lots of good specific information for each category as well. But generally, when you go to a tournament, you'll know you're either judging in the debate pool or you're judging in the individual event pools. And sometimes you'll be called to do a little bit of each, but normally you'll be split up into one of those 2. Now, the most common pattern for a tournament is to run 4 rounds. That each student, if they're debating, for example, is going to debate 4 different times against 4 different teams. That means you as a judge will probably judge 4 different rounds that day. Sometimes a tournament, particularly if they're quite large, will run 3 rounds and then break to what's called the break rounds, and this would be semifinals or final rounds. Most people who judge will judge most rounds. If a tournament has a lot of judges, you might get a round off or even 2 rounds off. The judges' names are called out in the lounge, or they're posted around the room. And you do want to be careful not to miss a round, because your school could be charged a fee if you don't show up for a round there. Once you know what your round is that you've been asked to judge, you're going to report to the room that will be listed on your ballot. You'll judge and listen things there, and then you bring the ballots back to the tab room, fill it out, sign it, and turn it in from there. And that's sort of the way it goes. So you get there in the morning, you judge 3 or 4 rounds, fill out your ballots, and wait for the results. So you're in the judges' lounge and you've been told, okay, you're judging this event in this room, go. What do you do then? Well, you go to that room. And when you get to that room, the contestants will either be waiting outside for you. It's actually considered a courtesy that they wait for the judge before they go in the room. Although some kids, if they're new, may not do that, so don't worry about that too much. Or they'll be arriving shortly. The judges are almost always given their ballots and assignments ahead of the students, so it may take the students a little while to get to that room. When you get there, you fill out the top of the ballot. You can ask in the debate categories for their names and verify that which side it is that they have said that they are going to be arguing, if it's Lincoln Douglas, or we'll do a coin flip, which I'll talk to you more about for public forum. And in the individual events, the students will usually write their information up on the board so you can see it and copy it down on the ballot. Then students will usually speak in the order that's listed. So if it's an individual event, the first name on your list will be the first person to speak. And if it's public forum debate, they'll do a coin flip at the start of the round to determine first speaker and which side they're going to be arguing. And most of the students will understand how to do that, and you can they'll show you how to do that. Sometimes you do have students that are what's called double entered in events. And if a student is double entered in an event, that means that they're competing in more than one category that day. If that's the case, they may not be there right away when they go to speak. So they'll come in between the speakers, and you just let them go in between as soon as they get there. And if they're first in that round and they're double entered, you allow them to speak earlier so they can speak first and then go to the next round. And this gives them a little bit more of a downtime in between their rounds, and also helps to keep the whole tournament running on schedule. Probably the most important thing about being a judge is to make sure that you read the ballots. The ballots will be available ahead of the tournament, and for all of my judges, I'll make sure that you have copies of the ballots, but they will also be in your judging packet when you get to the tournament. And do take the time to read that. It gives the specific information for each category. In debate, you want to be looking to give feedback for the speakers. You want to tell which arguments from the debate were the most effective and helped you make your decision, and you'll be listing the team that won. So in your opinion, this debate was won by which team, and you'll be assigning them speaker points. So how well did they do, even though they may have lost the debate, how well did they do compared to the other team and compared to the best possible debate that they might have given. In the individual events, you'll be giving feedback on each presentation. You'll be ranking the students in that room. So if you had 5 speakers in that room, you're going to say, out of those 5 speakers, which one do you think did the best job? And that will get the first place. Which one did the second job? They get second place, etc. And then you'll also give a rating for each speaker or speaker points. So for example, if everybody in the room was kind of novices and didn't really do a great job, you may be first place in the room, but maybe your speaker points aren't quite so high. Or conversely, if everybody was amazing, you may get first place, but there may only be 1 point difference separating the students who were in that room to show that they really were all of very high quality. When you're writing your ballots for the students, it really is important that you stay constructive. The first thing to do is to be as objective as you can. You want to be careful that if a student is presenting some information that you're not giving them higher points or taking points away just because you don't like that author, for example, or you don't like that particular style. And in a debate, you want to make sure that you're not giving points based on your own views on a topic or on your own knowledge of a topic. Like you may know something, but if it wasn't brought up in the debate or wasn't challenged in the debate, you really can't make that a judging issue. You want to always try to find at least a few positives. Most of these kids are very nervous particularly when they start out. Most of them have spent a lot of time putting this together, and they want to hear something that they've done right. And you do want to give specific feedback on what to do better rather than just saying what you didn't like. So this is where we talk about constructive comments. So you want to say things like, tell them what it is they should do, not what they did wrong. So a comment like, slow down, so your audience can understand you better, gives more specific information to a student rather than just, you talk too fast, which is just a negative critique but doesn't tell them what to do next. Probably the #1 complaint that we hear from students about ballots that they get back is that the judge wasn't specific. The classic example is, good job, last place in the room. Well, if it was a good job, why are they last place? You can think like a coach in this case. If this was your student going into the next debate or into the next chance to present their piece, what would you want them to fix? What can they do that would be better? And write down that information for them. Again, keeping it constructive, but students want to hear specifics. Even if they don't agree with you, they want to know what it was about their piece that really convinced you or that really moved you or that really kind of fell flat. So be objective, find the positives, be constructive, and do give them some specific feedback. Okay, so you've gone to your room, you've seen all of the speakers, and now you've got these ballots in front of you. What should you do? Well, you finish filling them out. Sometimes you can stay right there in the room and just add a few notes quickly. Sometimes the room is needed to get the next round started right away, in which case they may ask you to come back to the judges' lounge to finish filling out your ballots. Some tournaments prefer this because they also know then that the round is over and that they're not waiting for results. They're just, the round is done. They're just waiting for the judge to have a chance to finish things up. You'll bring your ballots back to the tab room or the tabulation room, and at the beginning of the day, most of the tournaments will let you know exactly where that is. It's usually a front desk or a specific table that's set up. And this helps to keep the tournament on schedule, and you always want to wait a moment. Don't just put your ballot down on the table and walk away. The person who's checking them in will check to make sure that all the information is there, that you have actually circled the correct teams that you wanted to win or given the correct rankings for the people that you intended, so that what you meant to have happen is actually what's communicated on the ballot. Then you go back to the judges' lounge and you get some time to relax. You wait for the next round to be posted. It's a good idea in between rounds to go ahead and eat when you can. A lot of times, for example, lunch will just be put out whenever lunch is ready, and you may be coming back and forth. There's no official announcement to go ahead and have lunch now. It really is important, though, that you don't leave the judges' lounge or leave the room for the day without checking in with either your team coach or at least with the tab room. And this is just so that they know where you are in case they need you to judge something else that comes up more quickly. So to summarize a couple of the key do's and don'ts for the day, first of all, again, know that you are an important part of this process. We really value our judges, and you're volunteering your time to come out and make this possible for the kids. Do be encouraging and friendly. A lot of students are nervous, and they need that little bit to know that the judge is welcoming them and helping them along with things where it's appropriate. Do go ahead and ask the kids if you're not sure about a procedure. It's okay to let them know that you are new at judging and that you're learning this along with them. Please, unless the tournament is specifically said to do this, don't give what's called oral critiques or disclose results. Basically, this means in the middle of the event or sometime during the day, don't tell the kids face to face whether they won or lost a debate or where they placed in a round, or give them any feedback on this. There's a number of reasons for not doing this or not doing this. Oral critiques have a way of either really discouraging kids and they feel like, oh, wow, I really didn't do well in that, and it can affect their performance later on, or giving them a false sense of security where they think, oh, well, I've got this down, I don't have to, do anything else. So you don't want to give oral critiques or disclose the results of your decision to the kids directly. Let the ballot do that later on. Do provide as much specific feedback on the ballot as you can. You do want to write clearly on the ballot. Ballots are often photocopied or sometimes even scanned and posted online for the students to read. So I know you're writing fast and you're trying to write a lot, but do try to write as clearly as you can. And please do come back and judge for us again. And again, future presentations will have more details on the individual events and some things to look for, but this should give you a general overview on what to expect if you're asked to judge at a speech tournament. And that's the end of our beginning presentation. Stay tuned for more in this series about some tips and hints for judging specific categories of speech and debate. Thank you so much.